My name is Jo Josephson. I've lived in Maine for over 30 years. Primarily been a journalist covering a lot of agricultural issues, but several years ago Maine Farmland Trust approached me and said, "Will you be an agent for Maine Farmland Trust in the western part of the state?" And I said, "I've always wanted to be an agent. Not quite sure what agent of what, but sure." And so for the last few years I've worked on and off for Maine Farmland Trust, which is probably in its 10th year now. It's a land trust organization. There are many in Maine, but Maine Farmland Trust is the only one that tries to protect just farmland. There are others that protect scenic areas, conservation of wildlife areas, but this is primarily only for farms. Maine Farmland Trust has figured that in the last 15 years, about 800,000 acres of land has been lost to development. Rural land has been lost to development, and a good chunk of that is farmland. It's primarily in the southern part of the state, along the coast, but it's creeping up inland, and I think that's why they hired me to work inland. I work primarily with a program of Farmland Trust called Maine Farmland. There are a lot of people, young people and farmers, in-state and from other states, who are looking to buy farms here in Maine. They register with Farmland Trust. They enroll and say what they're looking for, and we try to match them with farms that are for sale. We aren't brokers, we aren't realtors, we really consider ourselves matchmakers. We have listings of farms where farmers have said, "I'm selling, I'm retiring, my kids don't want this anymore, I hate to see this land go, I'm enrolling in Maine Farmland Trust, a realtor may be handling it, but I'm looking for farmers, or potential farmers, to buy my land." So we've got a list of seekers and we've got a list of sellers, and we send out notices to both saying who's looking for what, and we bring them together, and then we let them do it. We have other programs as well in which we buy, protect, and then sell the farms. When there's a particular farm that's vulnerable to development and we don't have time to find someone to purchase that, we will purchase it ourselves, put it into a agricultural conservation easement, and that means that we've taken the fair market value off of it and put the farm value on it, which means it's less expensive, but not always that less expensive, depends on where it is. And then young people can afford to purchase it, but that land then is protected permanently. It cannot be developed. It can only stay as a farm. There's flexibility in the easement about building outbuildings and fencing and so on, much more flexible than most conservation easements. And that's sort of a new program right now, where we're looking for large farms that are quite vulnerable. We will buy it, we will put it under easement, and then we will sell it. And there's quite a few that we've done in the state so far. Our goal right now is to protect 100,000 acres in the next 10 years. I think that's it. I may have those numbers wrong. Lots of times we are finding farmers who are so committed to protecting their farms that they will donate the easement, so that the purchase of the easement, the difference between what the selling price is at market value and what it would be sold at value as a farmland, can be quite considerable. Many farmers, many owners of farmland will donate that easement. The state has a bit of money in their Land for Maine's Future program, where they take a certain percentage of the money they raise through bonds and put that towards putting certain farms in easements. But for the most part, the reality is there isn't enough money out there to purchase those easements. And many times the owner will donate the easement and they get a tax break through the U.S. tax laws. Those are Farm Link and Buy, Protect, Sell are pretty much our two major programs.
With the Farm Link program, it sounds like you're, you know, creating an environment that will enable younger farmers to become involved and get started with their own, farming practices and businesses. Um, with that, do you find that you're seeing a more, I don't want to say innovative necessarily, but new types of farming practices where you're seeing, new methods being used on the farms and things like that? Are you seeing change in that sort of way?
Well, I don't follow the farmer once they've purchased it, but I do know that the young people who are coming have done all sorts of apprenticeships, either with Maine organic farmers and gardeners, and so they're looking at farming sustainably, organically. Lots of them have just come out of ag school and they're looking at new ways of farming. One of the interesting things about the Buy, Protect, Sell and about our Farm Link program is the commodity farms are there, but those large tracts of land can be divided into perhaps two farms. And so we're looking at people who are creating niche farms. They're not going into the commodities. They're not going into the big dairy herds. They're not going into the big crops of potatoes. What they're doing is they're making cheese. They're doing a variety of value-added products. And they're looking at their markets as local and as regional and as cooperative.
Great. What would you like to tell America, and what should they know about the American farmer and the Maine farmer?
Well, I have a bumper sticker on my car that we can go photograph if you'd like, and it says, "No farms, no food."
It's simple as that, isn't it?
It's as simple as that. I mean, there's two sides to the equation. We're trying to save the land. We're trying to save farming. We're trying to save the food. You can't have food without the land, and as we lose the land, we're going to lose the food. I think a perfect example of what's happening out west with the drought. We don't know what's going to happen to the farms that are enduring this great drought. And I think in New England, we're looking at farm security or food security so that we don't truck our food in from great distances. We want to become sustainable as much as we can here in the Northeast so that we're not depending on the food out there. We're also looking at food safety and all the problems that we've had with spinach and all those things. People feel more secure and safe when they're buying from a farmer they know. And that, I think, is terribly important. We've lost touch with who's growing our food. We've become a global agricultural economy, and we're working, I think, to create a more regional, a more local agricultural economy.